Chapter 77 of The Plum and the Golden Vase. Chongzhen version of the embroidered portrait. Simon King walks in the snow to visit Iu. Cecil Bai brings water to fight with her lover. The word says, looking south of the Yangtze River my Kiksu. New makeup at the end of the year. At the end of the month, the flowers are colored together. And the light flakes are half fragrant before the wind, no more crazy than willow flowers. The shadow of the two birds is comparable to that of a lady in snow. They were together in the 6 rays of light, and the fragrance was blooming on the flowers' heads, competing like two mandarin ducks. It is said that when Shu Kai asked to see Simon King, but was not able to do so, he knew that he was ashamed, so he moved to his old home. Simon King tidied up the academy and became a guest, so it was no big deal. One day, Shang Ju came to pay his respects and went to Beijing for a test. He asked Simon King to borrow his suitcase and felt shirt. Simon King was sitting with him waiting for tea, because he talked about Qiao Dahu and Yun Lishu. The two abandoned their relatives. One was accepted as a righteous official, and the other was appointed as an ancestral official. When they were appointed as stewards, I would like to write the scrolls to congratulate them. I wonder if I know each other, old man? I would like to thank you for your kindness. Shang Juren smiled and said, why should I use the gift? My classmate Nai Liang, who saw that I was studying in the arsenal and was my teacher. He was very talented in various fields. Just send in for Simon King to express his thanks. After tea, he stood up. Simon King immediately sealed 2 handkerchiefs and 5 coins of platinum, and sent the piano boy to deliver the axe, felt shirt, and suitcase to Shang Juren. It took 2 days to write the manuscript and send it to someone. Simon King hung it on the wall. But when he saw the gold characters shining brightly without adding any text, he felt very happy. I saw Earl Ying coming to ask, when will the matter between Qiao Dahu and second brother Yen be held? Have you done the scroll? Why has Mr. Wen not been seen for so many days? Simon King said, what is the question about Mr. Wen? It's clear, he's a dog. Tell me this again. The Earl said, brother, I said that this person exaggerated and was very vain. You had to have a second thought earlier, otherwise, you would have taught him to ruin our children. He then asked him, who wrote the second husband's congratulations? Simon King said, yesterday Shang Xiaotong came to visit me and said that his friend Nai Liang, who was good at eloquence. He asked Nai Liang who to write the article. Look, then he said, the favor is gone, brother. You should send it to me early so that I can prepare. Simon King said, tomorrow is a good date, so I will send someone to him early. Just as he was talking, he suddenly reported, Dad Jia came to say goodbye and said he would get up on the 6th day of the lunar month. Xiao Hai's father is not at home. He preached and told Dad he to send someone to watch over there. Mrs. Simon saw it. The post reads, Jia Cheng, a late student of the Yin family, bowed his head and thanked her. Simon King said, Lian Changju sent people to his house to buy 2 cents of Changyi fragrant silk. He paid the piano boy. I bought it quickly and asked your brother-in-law to seal it and write a note and send it to him. He was leaving the Earl in the study for dinner when suddenly seeing Ping Anna hurriedly brought in 3 stickers to report. Consultant Wang, Bing Bai Lei, and Lang Zhonggan are here to pay their respects. Simon King read the stickers, Wang Boyan, Lei Chi Yuan, and Chen Bai. He quickly dressed and tied up. The Earl said, brother, if you have something to do, I'll go. Simon King said, I'll meet you tomorrow. He dressed up and went out to greet him. The 3 officials all gave in to each other, entering the hall, reciting the etiquette and telling the son about things that bother you. After a while of tea, while we were chatting, Dr. N said, Lei Dongyu, Wang Xiaohua, and their students have come to Qiandu again. There is Zhao Dayan from the Zhejiang province, who has been newly promoted to the principal of Dali Temple. The 3 students have come to invite me at the invitation of your residence. They have been sent to Qiandu. It's the 9th day of the Lunar New Year. The host's family has 5 seats. I don't know if you'll agree to it. After the 2 were handed over, Simon King ordered them to be collected and sent out. Lei Dongwu said to Simon King, the letter from Jin Yunye came the day before yesterday, saying that Sun Wenxiang is an expensive associate. The student has kicked him out. Didn't he come to tell me? Simon King said, that's right. Mr. Duocheng, take care. Please bow down. Lei Bingbai said, how can we love each other? After saying this, we bowed to each other and left in the sedan chair. It turns out that since Pan Jinlian took charge of the family's money, he made a new order. Every day the boy bought vegetables and looked at them before counting the money with him. He didn't count. He only taught Chan Mai how to count money and mention coins. The boy was scolded so badly by Chan Hong that he just gave up and taught Simon King how to beat him. So all the boys complained to each other, saying that it was better to use money in Sanny Yang's hands. But the next day, Simon King Yamen dispersed, and he said to He Qianhu, Jia Longshi's family has already left. Has the chief appointed someone to guard the door? He Qianhu said, exactly. Yesterday the people over there have told me that the student has ordered Xiaobai to go over there. Simon King said, let's go and have a look with the chief today. Then he left the Yamen and rode to the Jia family's house. The family is gone, and the companions should be waiting at the door. The two officials dismounted and entered the hall. Simon King led He Qianhu to look back and forth. Then he went to the flower pavilion in front and saw an open space with few flowers and plants. Simon King said, Sir, tomorrow we will clean up the play area, plant some flowers and willows, and repair the pavilion. He Qianhu said, This has been decided. The students will renovate and build 3 rolling sheds in the spring. Please come in sooner or later. The chief came to relax. After looking at it for a while, he ordered his family to clean up and close the door. I will write a letter and go to Tokyo to visit my husband soon, and move in with my family in the new year. Simon Chingswo said goodbye and went home. He Qianhu returned to the Yamen. I didn't move my luggage until the next day, which is not a word. When Simon King got home and got off his horse, he saw He Ju buying a ruler for kinds of food and a jar of wine to thank him. Then Liu Nixiang sent someone to deliver a box of candles, 20 tables, 80 strands of official incense, a box of incense, a jar of homemade wine, and a mouthful of fresh pig. When Simon King came in, Liu Gonggong's family kowtowed and said, My father-in-law, please put on your shoes. These small gifts are with my father. Simon King said, I missed my father-in-law the day before yesterday. How can I give you such a big gift? He ordered, left and right. It's almost done, please wait for the housekeeper. After a while, Hua Tunger took out a cup of tea and ate it away. Simon King sealed the reward with 5 coins of silver, took the post back and sent it away. On the other hand, He Ju was asked to come in. When Simon King saw He Ju, he pulled his hand up to the hall. He Ju hurriedly knelt down and said, Thank you for your kindness, my dear brother. I am so grateful. He invited Simon King to accept the gift. Simon King refused to accept the kowtow, so he stood up and said, Old Ju, you my old man, please stop being like this. He asked him to sit down. He Ju said, How dare you, a humble man, sit down arrogantly. He just said to stand beside him. Simon King also stood, had a cup of tea with him, and said, Old Ju, why do you bother to send gifts? I won't accept it. If anyone bullies you, just come and tell me. I will vent your anger for you. If the county government I sent you a very important errand, I will tell you. Mr. Lee, He Ju said, Thanks to my father's grace, I know that I am old now, so I have told Mr. Hekin to take my place. Simon King said, It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's better for you to have some leisure time. Then he said, Since you don't want to, I will accept the wine gift. If you still take the ruler, I won't let you sit down. Then He Jukian thanked him deeply and resigned. Simon King was sitting in the hall, looking at the gift boxes, red sheep wine, scrolls, and everyone sharing their money. First, he sent Dian to Kiao Dahu's house, and then Wang Jing was sent to Yun Li Shu's house. When Dian came back, the Kiao family gave him 5 coins. Wang Jing went to Yun Li's home, took care of the tea and food, and gave him a big piece of true blue cloth and a pair of piano shoes. He replied with a double post saying, Please tell me more, Dad, and I'll treat you to another day. Simon King was full of joy and went to Yun Young's room to put food in the back, because he said to Yun Young, Beyonce has gone, and Uncle Wu is selling goods on Lion Street. I have no time today, so I will go there to take a look. Yun Young said, Why don't you go? If you want some wine and food, the servant will come to the house and tell you. Simon King said, I know. Wearing a pleated cloak and powder-soled soap boots, Kin Tong and Dian followed, heading straight to Lion Street. When they arrived at the house, Uncle Wu and Lai Zhao were hanging flower baskets and buying silk, wool, and silk floss. They crowded the shop with people doing business and couldn't keep busy. Simon King dismounted, took a look, walked to the back and sat down in the greenhouse. Second Uncle Wu came and bowed to him because he said, "I can save 20 or 30 taels of silver in one day." Simon King also paid Lai Zhao's wife Wen Jiangking. Second uncle will miss his daily meal and tea. Lai Zhao's wife said, "Serve food and wine every day. Don't dare to make any mistakes." Simon King saw that the sky was gloomy, with thick clouds, and the air conditioning was invading, making it look like snow. Suddenly he remembered that he was going to Zheng Yuer's house, so he ordered Qin Tong, "Get my fur coat from my home on horseback and ask your aunt if she has a box of wine and food to share with you." Her second uncle, Qin Tong, promised. When I got home, after a while, I got a mink fur coat and the box of wine and food. Simon King had 3 drinks with his second uncle in the room, and then said, "Second uncle, you can stay here tonight and use it later. Go to my house." So he put on his gauze, rode on horseback, and went to Dan and Kin. The boy followed and walked straight into the fence to Zheng Yuer's house. Turning round the East Street intersection, I saw a flurry of auspicious snow falling in the sky. But see, it's so cold in the desert, and the snow is falling just right. Pull out the cotton and cut it into pieces, as big as a tortoise. Seeing bamboo shoots and cucumbers in the forest, some of them were overwhelmed by him. The rich man said, "There are still too few obstacles to eliminate disasters." Surrounding the red furnace beast charcoal, wearing mink fur embroidered jacket, holding plum blossoms in hand, she sang that it was auspiciousness for the country and that she did not care about the poor. There is a secluded person lying high, chanting many poems and grasses. Simon King stepped on the scattered jade, entered the fence, and dismounted in front of Zheng Yuer's house. I saw the maid flying in and saying, "Dad is here." Mother Zheng saw it and came out. As for the ceremony in the middle hall, she said, "Thank you so much for the gift the day before yesterday. My sister was disturbing the house again and taught his aunt and third wife. Reward him with flowers and green sweat towels." Simon King said, "It's an empty day for him." He sat down. Simon King ordered Diane, "Bring the horse in and put it in the courtyard behind." Mom said, "Please sit in the open room behind me. Sister, you just got up to comb her hair." She only said that Dad came yesterday and waited for the whole day. Today he felt a little unhappy and got up late. As Simon King entered the bright room behind him, he saw the green curtain was half open. The felt curtain was lowered, and a large brass basin was burning charcoal fire on the ground. Simon King sat on the front chair. First, Zheng Xianger came out to meet them and handed them tea. Then Yuer came out, with a nest of silk Hangzhou silk on her head, a button of green plum blossoms, a gold hairpin comb, and a sea otter lying on a rabbit. The misty-dressed servant girl has pink makeup and beautiful jade. Smiling, he wished Simon King a blessing and said, "Dad, I came late that day. I left late from the front, and when I got to the back, the aunt just didn't let me go, staying to eat, and it was already midnight when I came home." Simon King said with a smile, "Little oily boy, you and Sister Li Gui beat Ying Wuzi very well." Zheng Yuer said, "Who taught him to be so weird that he hurts me every time he comes to the banquet?" That day, Zhu Mazi was also drunk and coaxed me to send me a lantern. I said, "If you don't have a lantern here, I'll be hanging in the gutter. I'll make you smell bad." Simon King said, "I heard Hong Sire say yesterday that Zhu Mazi met Wang Sangwaner again and invited Rong Zhaoer on the street." Zheng Yuer said, "I just rested at Rong Zhaoer's house for the night and burned a stick of incense. Gone. Qin Yuzhir is still walking. Dad, I'm afraid you're cold, so sit in the room." Simon King arrived in the room, took off his mink fur, and sat with Fentu round the stove. The aroma in the room was overwhelming. After a while, the girl brought 3 bags of meat buns with yellow buds and chives and an inch-large water horn. The 2 sisters accompanied Simon King and each ate a bowl. Yuer raised half of the pot again and added it to Simon King. Simon King said, "I did it. And I only came here after eating 2 snacks. I wanted to come to your place for a walk, but I didn't want it to snow again." Yuer said, "Dad, wouldn't you let me down the day before yesterday? I didn't see my father after waiting for a whole day yesterday. I didn't expect him to come today." Simon King said. "The scholars came to visit me yesterday, but I didn't come." Ayur said, "I want to ask my father if there is a Tao. Buy one for me. I'm going to make a collar for you." Simon King said, "It doesn't matter. Yesterday, a Korean man came to Liaodong and gave me some good ferrets. You ladies don't even have collars. I've always done it, and I'll send two to each family." So Xiang and Ayur quickly stood up and said one blessing. Simon King said, "Don't talk to Sister Gui and Sister Yin." Zheng Yur said, "I know, because she said, Sister Li Gui saw Wu Yin'er spending the night there the day before yesterday and asked me when he came. I didn't hide it from him. I said, yesterday, I invited Mr. Zhou, and I sang here for a whole day. Dad said that since Wang Sangwaner is here, it's not easy to invite you. Today I invite you to a gathering of relatives and friends. Sing." He didn't say a word. Simon King said, "It's good for you to come back. I didn't want him to sing the day before yesterday. I asked you again and again to celebrate your third mother's birthday. Sister Gui bought a gift and asked me to accompany her again. I ignored him as you said. Yesterday, I left Sister Yin to let him know. I don't know what Sanyang's birthday is." She said, "I made a mistake." Simon King said, "Tomorrow, Father Yin will serve you wine, and you and Sister Yin will sing together for a day." Ayur said, "Father will pay for it. I'll go." He took out 32 ivory cards and played with Simon King on the Kang felt strips. Xianger also sat next to her and wiped it with her. The three of them wiped the cards, and after a while, they put the wine on the table. Aixiang and Ayur held the wine one at a time, and the two sisters played and sang. After singing a set, the two sisters brought the dice ball and started joking with Simon King to compete for the spotlight. Cups and cups come and go, each adding to the beauty of spring. Simon King suddenly saw that in Zheng Ayur's room, on the brocade screen next to the bed, there was a scroll called Picture of the Beauty in Love with the Moon with a poem. There is a beauty who stands out from the crowd, and the breeze blows her pomegranate skirt. The flowers bloom in the Golden Valley in spring and March, and the moon turns, and the flowers bloom at night. Yexu's spirit is linked to Zhongyin's, while Kyunglin's talent and beauty surpass Wenjin's. The young man's feelings should be admired, and don't let Bai Yun carelessly entrust him. Simon King looked at it and asked, "Is the master of Sanguine called Wang Sangwaner?" Zheng Ayur, who was panicked, quickly said, "This is what he wrote in the old days. His name is no longer Sanguine, but Xiaoshuan." He told people, "My father said, my name is Siquin. Why did he call it Sanguine?" He was afraid that his father would be annoyed, so he changed his name to Xiaoshuan. The words were blotted out. Simon King was filled with joy and said, "I didn't know he changed his name." Banta said, "I only found out when I heard him tell someone. He said that his deceased father's name was Yixuan, so he changed his name, Xiaoshuan." After saying that, Zheng Xianger went downstairs, leaving Ayur alone in the room with Simon King. The two of them stacked up side by side, grabbing wine and drinking wine, because they talked about Mrs. Lin so much, so romantic. I was having a drink at his house, and Wang Sangwan invited me to see him in the back that day. It was his idea to teach Sangwan, "Please accept me as your adoptive father. Teach me to accept his etiquette, and entrust me to teach him how to grow up." Banda clapped his hands and laughed and said, "Thanks to me for showing you the way to go with your father. Tomorrow, even the 3 official wives will not be afraid." "Daddy," Simon King said, "I'll burn a stick of incense with him tomorrow. In the first month of the year, I'll invite him and Mrs. Sangwan to my house to watch the lights and have wine." Banta said, "Dad, you still don't know how beautiful Sangwan's wife is. She is not as charming as a lantern person. She is 19 years old this year and is a widow at home. Wang Sangwaner has no access to the family. Dad, are you willing? Take some time and don't worry about not being your person." The two talked while talking. The maid then brought many small fruit plates, and Fenta personally served them to Simon King to drink with. Then she put the phoenix-flavored honey cake into his mouth with her tongue, and used her delicate hands to untie Simon King's trousers, revealing the words and teaching him how to do it. Those words were ferocious and mind-boggling. Ziqiang was brilliant. Simon King ordered him to appreciate it. "This pink head is really hanging down." I opened my red lips lightly, half swallowing and half spitting, go in and out, making a slurping sound, and tasted it for a while. The connection has been revealed. The lustful heart is like fire, and I want to have sex. Fenta went to the back. Simon King went out of the room to change clothes and saw that the snow was getting heavier and heavier. Returning to the room, the maid was sent forward to take off her boots and belt, and then move on to her gums. The girls came back from the pink-hatted bath, closed their doors, and entered the Mandarin duck tent together. Exactly how charming the spring beauty is, making Dai Fang's heart soft and lustful. There is poetry to prove it. There is no basis for gathering and dispersing in dreams. When you get up, the remaining candles reflect the red gauze. Since ancient times, love has been combined with many gods, and no one knows that the road to the balcony is blocked. The two of them enjoyed sex until the first watch. They got up at the first watch. They dressed and combed their hair, and the maid poured wine again, prepared the delicacies, and drank a few more cups. They asked Diane, "Do you have lanterns and umbrellas?" Diane said, Kin Tong went to get lanterns and umbrellas. Simon King had just said goodbye, and the brothel owner and the prostitute saw them out and watched them get on the horse. Zheng Yue shouted, "If Dad calls me, come earlier." Simon King said, "I know." He got on the horse, held the umbrella and went out of the courtyard, walking all the way home in the snow. To Wu Yunyang, he just said that he was drinking with Wu Erju on Shizi Street. No need to mention it. The night scene was mentioned. The next day was the 8th day of the first lunar month. It was found that He Qian, whose luggage had been moved to Xia's house. Simon King sent for boxes of fine tea and snacks and a 5-cent folding handkerchief as a gift. Suddenly, Ying Boju came. Simon King saw that the snow had cleared and the wind was very cold, so he kept him in the study room in front of the fire and asked the servant to bring him some dishes and porridge, saying, "Yesterday, the relatives Kiao and the second brother Yen sent gifts and handkerchiefs. I also gave you 2 cents for your favor. You don't have to give it to him. Just wait for the invitation to have a drink." Ying Boju raised his hand to thank him and asked, "Why did the 3 of you come here yesterday? Who are those 2? Simon King said, "One of them is Lei Bingbai and the other is Wang Kanyi. They are both from Zhejiang. They want to have a drink here. Tomorrow, we will invite Zhao Ting, the prefect of Hangzhou, who has been promoted to the chief of the Dali Temple in Beijing. He is the parent official of each prefecture. We cannot refuse him in terms of getting along with him. He only has 3 taels of silver as a salary." The Earl said, "Civil servants are very small. What can 3 taels of silver do? Brother must compensate him." Simon King said, "This Lei Bingbai was asked by Huangxi's brother-in-law Sun Wenxiang. Yesterday, I mentioned the charge of expelling him." The Earl said, "You said he was not careful, but now he still remembers it. So I will allow this banquet to be held." While talking, the Earl called, "Ying Bao, ask that person to come and see your father." Simon King asked, "Who is he?" The Earl said, "He is a young man, but he is from an old family. Both his parents are gone, and he has been working in the royal family since he was a child. He already has a wife, but because he didn't get along with the other family members in the farm, he left. Now he is idle and can't do anything. He is a friend of Yingbao, and he asked Yingbao to marry someone. This morning Yingbao said to me, 'Dad, please recommend him to the father's house.' I said, 'I wonder if your father needs him?' I asked Yingbao, 'What's his name? Ask him to come in.' Yingbao said, 'His surname is Lai, and his name is Lai Yar.' Lai Yar knelt on the ground, kowtowed, and stood outside the curtain. The Earl said, 'If we talk about his physique, he has all the strength and can carry anything he wants.' So he asked, 'How old are you?' Lai Yar said, 'I'm 20 years old.' Then he asked, 'Does your wife have any children?' The man said, 'Just the couple.' Yingbao said, 'To be honest, his wife is only 19 years old, and she can cook, sew, and make clothes.' Seeing that the man bowed his head and put his feet together, Simon King said, 'Since you asked me to do this, please agree to it with all your heart.' He said, 'Pick a good date, write a written document, and the couple can move in.' Lai Yar kowtowed. Simon King asked Kintunger to take him to the back to see Yu Nang and the others kowtow. Yu Nang gave him the room where Lai Wang originally lived. The Earl sat down and went home. Yingbao wrote a letter of surrender with him and gave it to Simon King to keep. It goes without saying that he changed his name to Lai Ju, but since her eldest son married the Jia family, Ben Si's wife has been buying things every day, and she only asks Ping En, Lion and Hua Tong. These high-ranking officials in Simon King's family often drink with Ping He in his room. Ben Si's wife is friendly, and she will order dishes or ask for tea, and it will be ready at hand. Even if Ben Si returns from the shop and sees them, he will not be surprised. So today he is not at home. Who will not move for him? Diane and Ping En sit in his room more often. On the 9th day, Simon King and Langzhong, Wang Kanyi, Lei Bingbai set up a banquet and invited Zhao Shifu, all of which need not be described in detail. That day, Lai Ju and his wife moved in early. His wife saw Yu Nang and everyone kowtowed behind him. Yu Nang saw him wearing a purple silk jacket, a blue cloth jacket, and a green cloth skirt. He was short and had a melon seed face. He was covered in rouge and powder, and his legs were curled up. When asked, he knew how to do all kinds of needlework. He was given a name, Hu Yuan, and he was to cook with Huixu and Huixiang every 3 days. No more words were given. One day, Miss Young was gone outside the door, and Tunger came to report the death. Simon King prepared a table with 3 kinds of meat, soup and rice, and sealed 5 taels of incense. Wu Yunayang, Li Zhaoer, Meng Yulu, and Pan Jinlian were in for sedan chairs, all of which went north to burn paper and mourn for him. Qin Tunger, Ji Tunger, Lai Juer, and Lai Anner followed the sedan chairs and were not at home. Simon King was in the study room of the Dwin shop opposite, watching the woolen jacket craftsman and Yunayang making a mink scarf. He saved up a scarf first and asked Diane to send it to Zheng Yuer in the courtyard, and sealed 10 taels of silver for him to celebrate the festival. Zheng's family treated him to wine and food, and gave him 3 taels of silver. Diane came over and told Simon King, "Auntie Yu has sent me a letter. Thank you very much. Dad didn't come the other day. You gave me 3 taels of silver." Simon King said, "You can take it." Then he asked him, "Ben Si is not at home. What did you do when you came out of his room earlier?" Diane said, "Mrs. Ben Si has been married since his daughter got married, and there is no one to help her. She often asks me to buy things for him." Simon King said, "Since he has no one to help him, you can help him." He then whispered to Diane, "Tell him slowly that Dad wants to come and see you. What do you think? See what he says. If he agrees, ask him for a handkerchief for me." Diane said, "I understand." He understood Simon King's words and promised to leave. Simon King then went home. Wang Jing took out the golden tiger and 4 pairs of gold-headed silver hairpins from Guyan Sha and gave them to Simon King. Simon King left 2 pairs in the study and took the rest into Li Ping'er's room and gave Ryu the red tiger and another pair of hairpins. He gave the pair of hairpins to Yingxun. The 2 took them and kowtowed. Simon King ordered Yingxun to get some food. After a while, the food was brought and she ate, then came out and sat down in the study. Diane walked up slowly and saw Wang Jing beside her, but he didn't say anything. Simon King asked Wang Jing to go back and get some tea. Diane said, "I told him what my father said, and he smiled. I asked him to serve you in the evening, and when my father comes in, he asked me to bring this handkerchief." Simon King saw a square handkerchief with red silk and brocade pattern wrapped in red cotton paper, smelled the fragrance, and was very happy, so he quickly took it away. Wang Jing brought tea, drank it, and then walked to the opposite door to watch the craftsmen do their daily work. Suddenly, it was reported, "Uncle Hua is here." Simon King said, "Please come over here and sit." Hua Xiu went to the study room. Bodan sat down. "Thank you for disturbing me today." While chatting, the painted boy brought tea to drink. Hua Xiu said, "There is a guest outside the door. He has 500 bags of wuxi rice. It is frozen on the river and is waiting to be sold back home. I thought about my brother-in-law and bought it to wait for the price." Simon King said, "Why should I need it for nothing? No one wants it on the frozen river. When the river boat comes, the price will drop even more. Now there is no money at home." He immediately told Diane, "Set up the table, tell the family to come and see the dishes." At the same time, he asked the painted boy, "Please ask your second father Ying to come and sit with your father Hua." After a while, the earl came. The 3 of them were together, drinking round the stove. He ordered 2 more cakes to be baked. After a while, Wu Daoguan's apprentice Yingxun came with a festival gift and an imperial edict. Simon King invited him to sit and drink with him. He took Li Ping'er's 100 Days Sutra and gave her some money. They ate until sunset, when Hua Xiu and Yingchun left first. After Gan, the shopkeeper, closed the shop and invited him to sit again. He played dice with the Earl and talked until the lights were on. Wu Yunyang and her group arrived in sedan chairs, and Lion came to report. The Earl asked, "Where are you going today?" "Sisters-in-law," Simon King said. "Miss Young is gone. Today is the 3rd day of chanting. I have prepared a memorial ceremony and incense. Let's go and pay our respects." The Earl said, "The old man is also very old." Simon King said, "He must be 75 or 76. He has no sons or daughters, and he relies on his nephew for support. I have also prepared his material for him for several years." The Earl said, "Well, the old man has gold in his chest, which is a great thing. Brother's great merit." After that, after several rounds of wine, the Earl and Gan said goodbye. Simon King stood up and walked over, and told the young man Wang Xian, "Be careful with the candles." Wang Xian said, "I know." He watched and closed the door. Seeing that there was no one, Simon King walked into Bensi's house into steps. He saw Huasi standing alone at the door for a long time. When he heard the door opposite close, Simon King walked up to her from the shadows. The woman quickly opened the sealed door, and Simon King went inside. The woman also pulled the sealed door closed, saying, "Dad, please sit inside the paper door." It turned out that the lattice window in the inner room opened to the back half of the room, and there was a small king behind the paper door, with a roaring fire. There was a lamp on the table, and the 2 sides of the king were covered with snow-white paper. The woman was wearing an emerald blue brocade band, a purple silk jacket, a green silk jacket, and a jade-colored gauze skirt. She came forward and greeted Simon King, and quickly handed him a cup of tea, saying quietly, "I'm afraid that Hansauer next door will know." Simon King said, "It doesn't matter. How can he know in the dark?" So without saying anything, he hugged the woman to his arms and kissed her. He pulled the pillow over, and dressed and pressed her on the edge of the king, lifted her legs and started to move. The penis was tied with a brace, and as soon as it was inserted into the vagina, it was pulled a few times, and the woman's vagina was dripping with sexual fluid, soaking her blue cloth pants. Simon King pulled out his penis, took out a bag from his pocket, and trembled with tenderness. He dipped some on the glands and thrust it in. Only then did he stop the saliva from flowing and began to thrust it in. The woman held onto Simon King's shoulders with both hands, and they moved closer together. He raised his voice and trembled, moaning continuously. Simon King, who was in high spirits, put his legs on his arms, thrust forward without hesitation, and thrust it in and out, more than 200 or 300 times. In a moment, the woman's hair was disheveled. Her tongue was cold, and she could not speak. Simon King was panting. His penis was smooth and flowing like a flood. After a long time, he pulled out his penis, and the saliva from it came out. He wiped it with a handkerchief. The two straightened their clothes, tied their belts, and put on their makeup. Simon King took out a bag of silver worth 5 or 6 taels from his sleeve, and 2 pairs of gold-hatted hairpins, and gave them to the woman to buy flowers and green belts during the festival. The woman thanked him and quietly sent him out. Diane was in the shop, concentrating on listening to the knocker on the door. And then he opened the door and let Simon King in. He knew that no one knew about it. After that, he went in and out every morning and evening, and entered the port once or twice. It is true, if you don't want others to know, then don't do it yourself. He didn't expect to be seen by Hansauer coldly, and spread the news to Jinlian. Jinlian didn't tell him. One day, on the 15th day of the 12th lunar month, the Qiao family invited people to have a drink. Simon King got up together with Ying Boju and Wu Daju. That day, many relatives and friends watched the play and drank, and they didn't leave until the second watch. The next day, every family had a table, and there is no need to go into details. Chui Ben managed 2,000 taels of Huzhou's silk goods, got up in the first 10 days of the 12th lunar month, hired a boat to load it, and rushed to Matu, Linqing. He asked the young man Ronghai to guard the goods, and hired a foreman to come home, get a car and silver, and go to the door to drop off the foreman. Qin Tong said, "Brother Chui is here, please sit in the hall." Dad is in the opposite house. Wait for me to invite him." He walked to the opposite house, but didn't see Simon King. So he asked Ping Anner. Ping Anner said, "Dad went to the back." Kin Tong went to the upper room and asked Yu Niang. Yu Niang said, "Damn it. Your dad left early in the morning. When will he come back?" He went to all the rooms, the garden, and the study, but he couldn't find him. Kin Tong shouted at the door, "I'm afraid he has killed someone. I don't know where Dad has gone. I can't find him." Dad disappeared in broad daylight. Brother Chui came and just told him to sit down the day he came. Dawn knew it clearly, but he didn't say anything. Unexpectedly, Simon King suddenly came in from the front, scaring everyone. It turned out that Simon King had just come out after entering the port in Bensi's room. Ping An sent Simon King back inside, seeing Kin Tong sticking out his tongue. He was worried for him and said, "I hope Brother Chui will beat him up." Unexpectedly, Simon King walked into the hall. Chui Ben saw him, kowtowed, handed over the account book, and said, "The boat has arrived at Matu, and there is a small amount of tax. I set out on the first day of the 12th lunar month, and went my separate ways in Yangzhou. When he went to Hangzhou, I stayed at Mao King's house for 2 days. So he said, Mao King used 10 taels of silver for my father to bring a girl from 1,000 households in Yangzhou. She was 16 years old and her name was Chu Yan. She was beautiful and had a beautiful face, like skin, eyes like stars, eyebrows like the moon, waist like a willow, socks like hooks, 2 feet are just 3 inches. She has a face that can make fishes and geese fall, and a leopard that can make the moon ashamed of flowers. There are 3,000 short songs and 800 big songs in her belly. Mao King is still kept at home, and she will make her dowry and clothes for her. When spring comes, Han, the clerk, and the official will bring her on the boat to serve her father and relieve his worries and boredom." Simon King was very happy when he heard it, and said, "It's better to bring her on the boat. Why bother to make clothes and do her dowry? Is there anything to worry about my family?" So he wished he could fly to Yangzhou to take her beauty and enjoy the pleasure. It is difficult to tell the difference between a deer and Zheng, and it is impossible to tell the difference between a butterfly and Zhuangzhou. There is a poem to prove it. I heard that there is a Chu cloud in Yangzhou, and I heard it by the bluebird's voice. I don't know that all the good things are separated, so I try to ask the owner of the plum blossom. Simon King had dinner with Chui Ben, exchanged 50 taels of silver for car tax, and wrote a letter to the money manager to bother him. After Chui Ben finished speaking, he made a speech and went to Kiao Dahu's house to reply. When Ping An saw that Simon King was not looking for Kin Tunger, he said, "My son, you don't know how much good fortune you have. I don't know what my father likes today. If not, I would tie up the ghost and beat him a few times." Kin Tong said with a smile, "It's just you know my father's nature." After picking up the goods and unloading them at Lion Street, it was late in the afternoon. Simon King was at home delivering the festival gifts when he suddenly saw someone from the Jingdu supervisory office bringing a post and asking, "Song Daxon has been in Beijing for several days, but has the unknown decree come down yet? It would be best if old man Fu Wei sent someone to the procuratorate to find out." Simon King immediately agreed to the provincial level, took 5 coins, and went to the patrol office to inquire. Sure enough, the newspaper came down from the Tokyo residence yesterday, and a piece of paper was copied. The whole newspaper came to watch with Simon King. It says, "A book written by Song Qianian, the censor of Shandong province, impeach local civil and military officials according to the rules, in order to encourage people's hearts and to promote the saints and govern affairs. The thieves are the officials to appease the people, and the force is to ward off chaos, so they are the ones who protect the place and order the people. If he is not the person he is, he will be mishandled, and the people will be harmed. So what will happen to the country?" The ministers were ordered to visit Shandong and other places. The officials and people were in trouble, and the supervisors were on guard. They all paid close attention to consultations and visits. He was ordered to appease the ministers and make detailed identifications to find out whether each official was worthy or not. Now that the deadline is over, I dare not tell you one by one. After visiting Shandong Zuo Buzhang, Chen Saijin, he was loyal and caring for the people, the honest and Vijao Na, the discipline was kept clean, and the people obeyed. The deputy military envoy Lei Qiyuan, the army and the people admired his kindness and power, and all the staff praised him for his skill. Jinan Zhongshui, the prefect of the prefecture, has a considerable economy and is worthy of being a master who, the prefect of Dongping Prefecture, is cautious in his position and treats the people as if they were injured. These ministers should all be recommended, rewarded and promoted. I also visited Feng Tinghu, the Zuo counselor, who looked like a puppet with a stooped figure and a view of mulberry trees. He was greedy. Word spread throughout the room. These two ministers should be criticized urgently. After another visit, he found Zhou Zhu, the garrison of Zuo Zhenyuan, with magnificent equipment of experienced management, military morale, and thieves. Jing Zhang, the superintendent of soldiers and horses in Jeju, was young and strong, and he was highly skilled in talent. He was known as the first in martial arts. A Confucian general has a good chance of winning the battle. He is extremely strict in his orders, and he has long-term strategy and can resist insults. These two ministers should be promoted urgently. There are thousands of Wukai households in Qing County. With their sophisticated talents, they have learned how to defend. They drive their troops to attack the strongholds, but they can't attack them. They store food and pay them, so that no one is full. Sincerely, people want to serve their lives. The protection of one party is the shield of the country. It is advisable to increase promotion and encourage ministers. Your Majesty, if your ministers' words are acceptable and implemented, if the common people do not have excessive officials and titles, people will think of them, and if they are shepherds and attract people, then the holy rule depends on them. EDC, cause, Fang Yin-yi, the ministry knows. Continuing the previous chapter of the Ministry of Civil Affairs and Military Affairs, it can be seen from the report of Song Qianian, the censor, that the impeachment and promotion of local civil and military officials is nothing more than loyalty to the country, out of public opinion, an inquiry into the facts in order to facilitate the governance of the emperor. If you pray for blessings from the saints and carry them out, the world will be blessed and the people will be blessed. Fang Qini planned to do it. When Simon King saw him, he was filled with joy. Taking the newspaper, he walked to the back and said to Yunyang, Taoist Master Song is here. He has recommended your brother to be promoted to the commanding officer and to be appointed as the governor of the village. Both Zhou Shu and Master Jing will be rewarded and will be promoted to deputy staff and commander. Ran, now ask him to come and tell him. Yu Niang said, I'll ask the maid to take care of the food. I'm worried that he will also need money when he takes office. King said, it doesn't matter. I'll just lend him a few taels of silver. After a while, Uncle Wu arrived. Simon King sent the imperial edict to him to see. Uncle Wu quickly thanked Simon King and Yunyang, and said, my brother-in-law and sister have supported me so much. I will repay my kindness and I dare not forget it. Simon King said, Uncle, if you take office and have no money to serve wine, I will give some to the envoy. The uncle bowed and thanked him again. So they arranged for wine to be served in Yunyang's room. Yunyang is also sitting next to her. Simon King ordered Chen Jingji to copy the whole book and hold it with his uncle. That is to say, he sent Dian to take a post and send it to his residence to tell the good news to Jingdu prison and Zhou Shouyu. Exactly. I advised you not to waste time engraving and grinding stones. Passers-by's mouths on the road are like monuments.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.